reconvene this meeting of the RTM on Monday, May 13th, and we'll start out with a roll call.
For the annual budget session. Adams.
Here.
Bailey.
Here.
Bordelon.
Here.
Casper.
Here.
Chase.
Here.
DeSeller Fleming. Frickman. Gustafson. Hanscom.
Here.
Gutowski.
Here.
Lambert. Marley. Marshall. Martin.
Here.
Massett.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Melendez.
Here.
Mello Miller.
Here.
Merritt.
Here.
Monahan.
Here.
Newsom.
Here.
Oliver. Pasqualini. Perry. K. Powers.
Here.
S. Powers.
Here.
Pacino. Quinn. Richards.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Stanford. Starkley. Stevenson.
Here.
I. Streeter.
Here.
J. Streeter.
Here.
Strode. Washington. Wells.
Here.
Whitehouse. Whitney. Eben.
Here.
We have 25.
25, excellent. We have a quorum. I did hear from Representative Stanford, DeSiller Fleming, Washington, Perry, Lambert, and Marshall that they would not be here this evening, and from Representative
God bless
Whitney
you.
that he would be running late. So we may pick up another member as we move on. Our first item on the agenda is some CIPs that got left over, and so we'll start out with the Public Works Committee, Representative Newsom.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Me again? Hey, I'm paid every dime I'm worth. Okay, so the first account, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to continue reading from the May 2nd, 2019 meeting minutes. The first CIP we'll discuss is CIP 6C, Town Hall Complex, on page 231 of your budget book. Motion was made for $377,000 for CIP 6C by Representative Newsom, seconded by Representative Massett. Note that this figure, which is the one the Town Council passed, is $10,000 more than that requested by the Town Manager. Discussion. Director Schneider went through the efforts the CIP will fund. There's need to do some ADA code compliance work on Wing A. $85,000 will be used to construct office space in order to move Parks and Rec offices from Spicer House. $125,000 will be used to eliminate lead from the drinking water. $35,000 will be used to install IT infrastructure and improve cell phone access. $22,000 will be used to paint the exterior of Town Hall. Note that $267,000 of the funding comes from the state in the form of low SIP funds. The Town Council added an additional $10,000 for signs. There was discussion about how much signage could be purchased with $10,000. A vote was taken for $377,000 for CIP 6C. The motion passed unanimously, 5-0 to 0. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? So just for the record, the members present at the time were Representative Wells, Newsom, Massett, Merritt. Newsom, Wells, Massett, Merritt, and Stanford. Making up the unanimous vote. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? The Madam Moderator would like to make a motion for $377,000 for CIP 6C.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for $377,000 for the Town Hall Complex, CIP 6C, made by Representative Newsom and seconded by Representative S. Powers. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Mello Miller?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So going back, we did have a previous vote. Mr. Schneider, do you remember we voted on Wings B, C, and D back in January of 2018? Do you recall?
Yes.
For $75,000. And in this, when we voted on this, Representative, I have the meeting notes from that meeting, and Representative Borderline had asked that other schools had tested positive for lead and that the water hadn't been tested in the public buildings at that time, and yet in the CIP, you're asking to remove the lead. When was the lead testing done?
Excuse me. The lead testing was done in the summer, last summer. What we did is we tested all the facilities. Before Board of Ed moved in totally from William Seeley School, we had the testing done on all of the town buildings. Several buildings came up positive. This was one of them. So this building's on bottled water right now, to include hand washing stations. We then had an engineer come in, a mechanical engineer come in to trace down the whole system because we didn't have a good set of plans of where the water came from. So the lateral is coming off of Fort Hill Road, Route 1, and that's through Wing A, which is a 2-story wing. So what this will do is replace everything that we know that we need to replace to get clear, clean, potable water. It is potable water, but to get the lead out of it into this building and take it off of bottled water and hand washing stations.
Is there a reason why the water wasn't tested previously before you asked for this previous $75,000?
It was a building that was in a standby mode from the Board of Education, and you put it bluntly, this is one of the buildings that we did not realize that there was a lead issue here, and maybe we should have because there is. So we tested all of our buildings, but most of the buildings that we have here on the town side are post 1998, so there is no lead in the water. And of course, Groton Utilities water tests their water, and there was no lead coming from their mains into the building. So it was something that we know now. If we're going to reuse any of the older school buildings, first thing to do is test.
Okay, so that's good to know for the future. And then one more question regarding ADA code. So again, in the previous vote, we voted for B, C, and D, and you noted that this would bring us up to code for ADA compliance. So is this bringing up, it says exterior issues with wings A, B, C, and funds for ADA and operational modifications. So is this bringing wing A up to ADA compliance now?
Correct. So we can
Okay.
start backfilling that building there, which is signage, handles on doors, and of course ADA toilets.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I think I had one more thing, and that was, shoot. All right, I'm sorry, I might have to come back to it. Thank you very much.
Representative Newsom?
So if we move Parks and Rec from the Spicer House, what do we think we might do with the Spicer House?
That is up to the policymakers, the town council. I do not know.
Just to mention, we have a committee that looks at reuse of all our facilities and following the town policy. So we're still looking at that. You know, we have to maintain ownership. At most, it could be either used by us or leased out, but we have to maintain ownership there.
I guess I would prefer to see something where we probably lease out that facility, at least make enough money to cover the utilities, and an occasional paint job.
Yeah, maybe raise the mic.
That better?
Yes.
Okay.
Town clerk has
Just a
a
quick-
question.
With respect to the Spicer House, there is a deed restriction. Everybody should be aware that that the property has to be used for recreation. Of course, that's a broad term, isn't it? And also, you said, Director Schneider, you said that all towns' buildings were, and so I've had several questions on Town Hall, since it's the same water supply as the community center. Does that have lead also? Oh.
All of them have been tested. Senior Center hasn't been tested because it was built several years ago, so there's no lead in any of the stuff, but all the other buildings were tested.
And just a note on the Spicer House, there's restrictions. We definitely need to maintain access for water there, but the building could be used for another, as long as part of the property is used for recreation, we could lease it out to another purpose.
And I don't see any, there's nothing in this for the Spicer House, is that correct? Because I don't see that, okay. Representative Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just a quick point of clarity. The $10,000 for the signage, that's, I think I remember specifically for a community center sign to be placed along Route 1, is that right? And I'm just
Yes.
Yes.
where did 10,000 come from? It feels a little.
Came from council during the meeting. We didn't submit that number. That was an add-on by council. And I'm trying to remember the details. All it says is signage for community center and annex, so we'll have to look. And then if there was any left over, they said we could also, I don't know if you've looked at the sign outside of the annex. Yeah, that's the annex there. It's really deteriorated, so I'd like to get that replaced if there's money there. But there's been no study as to cost yet.
Okay, yeah, so.
Representative Richards?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to ask, because I recall at the beginning of the budget hearing, actually, for the town council, several people came and asked about the state of the gym in the community center, that there was leaking. Is that addressed at all in the CIP or a different CIP, or is that part of the funds for the following year, 21?
That was maintenance money. There were 5 areas that were leaking. We had a strange year, not a lot of snow buildup, but we had the freeze thaw, so there was a couple seams opened up. That was repaired by one of our roofing firms that came in, found the leaks, sealed them up, and they haven't leaked since. So that was done through our regular maintenance budget. That roof has been replaced already. Wing A has been replaced. There's wings B and C are coming, parts of B and C are coming up in the future. There's still some life left to those roofs.
I'm glad to hear there aren't leaks today. Thank you.
Representative McDermott?
Thank you. I know the town manager is aware of this, but the state of the building, the town hall, was in pretty deplorable shape for a long time, inside and out. And, you know, it's really a key part of our town. It's what everybody sees when they come here, one of the first things. So I think we need to make sure that our maintenance stays on top of getting these things fixed when they're becoming a problem. And so I'm certainly in favor of the CIP and spending whatever we need to keep that building in good shape.
Thank you. Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Was the Spicer rec building tested for lead water?
Yes.
Okay. And then my next question is the lighting in the parking lot. If you ever go to the new community center, Fitch Middle School, the lighting on the side where that like one-way pass through, the main entrance where a lot of people go in and use the gym, there's been a lot of complaints about the lighting there not being safe, not well lit around the corner. Is that being addressed in this at all?
All the wall packs have been replaced in front of the building, which has had 2 parking lot lightings. Those heads have been changed to LEDs with a higher lumens, higher wattage and lumens. So if you go by there tonight, those are well lit. And then we're asking Groton Utilities to install a street light on that entrance driveway is dark, so they're going to be able to install an 8-foot street light on that. That'll shine right down onto that entrance. So we did replace the wall packs. If you go there, there's plenty of light there. There's a lot of complaints about light in the front parking lot there. We replaced that. We got the light patterns better, so it's on the actual pavement itself.
Thank you.
And then Groton Utilities is supposed to put that
Yep.
light in a
What
couple
about
weeks.
by the door? Will that light, because that will address that one-way entrance, but by the actual door, where
Okay.
that trailer is and all that stuff, it's extremely dark in that corner.
Okay, that wasn't reported to me by the Parks and Rec director, so we will take a look at that because we had replaced all the wall packs. If we need to put an additional wall pack in to make it safe, we will.
So that's not included then in this?
No, but
particular
that's a maintenance item.
thing? Okay, and then my next question is the signage. So we are looking to put one on the building and one by the street, is the plan, or how are we? It seems like it's just open-ended. I just want to make sure that there's something towards the road and on the building.
We'll keep that in mind. There's no plan yet, but my guess is, yeah, likely would have both, yeah.
I mean, long-term, so I just don't
Yeah.
want to make sure that there's some signage out towards the front of the road.
Yeah, that was especially talked about, yeah.
And then the part of the gym that was leaking, was that the section that was already recently repaired?
No. Well, not the one replaced, and then we just repaired this. 2 different
Okay.
things.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Representative Kwiatkowski?
Thank you. I am going to support this number because I don't think there'll be any support to decrease it, even though I don't agree with how the community center came to be. Who asked the residents of Groton if they wanted Fitz Middle School to become a community center? If we were allowed to vote on this, I probably would have voted yes, depending on the plan that was proposed. But there was no plan. Is there a plan now? If you look in the CIP, in the next 5 years, we're going to be spending $1 million, and I haven't seen a plan. We were told when Fitz Middle School was closed that it was so decrepit that if you walked in there, you would die. And I'm not making that up. That's what we were told. Right, Betsy? We were. Okay. Last year, we started pouring money into Fitz Middle School before it was announced that it was going to be a community center. I believe at that time I stated on the RTM floor that this was going to turn into a money pit. That was correct. We will be spending taxpayer dollars on Fitz Middle School to infinity and beyond. I support a community center, but I believe the residents should have had a say before we created it. One other quick comment. At the Planning Department presentation at Bill Memorial a few months back, it was strongly suggested that the Mystic Oral School property was going to have a community center component. Was that true? If so, why 2 community centers?
I don't remember if something was, right now we're still negotiating details. There are really no details to share of the Mystic Education Center.
Representative Mello Miller?
Thank you once again. I'm sorry, I found my last question, which was back in January of 2018. You stated that the work being done for B, C, and D is all required for code and should be good for the next 5 to 10 years. So, are you saying that is that still the plan?
That code work has been completed. We got a certificate of occupancy. Without doing that code work, we wouldn't be in there now. So all that work is done.
Okay,
So
I just want to make
Yep.
sure. So that's still
done.
on plan for 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then Town Councilor Franco is here, and she might have some thoughts. I was curious if she had some thoughts about the $10,000 for signs.
Councilor Franco, would you like to come up and let us know about what that $10,000 is for? Or how you came up with that number more specifically, perhaps?
Sure, I
Thank
had
you.
actually recommended the extra $10,000. When I had talked to Mr. Barry, we discussed that there was a lack of signage and people don't know where the community center is. So he had thoughts of putting, I guess they're considered block letters on the actual building right above the door area where when you enter the building. And I had also suggested that you put something out at the road because people driving by have no idea what's going on back there. And he had agreed, and then Mr. Burt had suggested if there's money left over to fix the annex sign, and as I was leaving, the annex sign is in disrepair. And Mr. Barry had also noted that the sign for the boardwalk, is it the Pequannock Boardwalk?
Yeah, someone drove through it.
Somebody drove through it, and so that sign is no longer there. We believe it might be in the water. I don't know where it's at.
It is in progress, though. It's being replaced.
Okay, so, and there was if there's money for that as well. So it's basically for 4 different types of sign on the building, out on Route 1 so people know, the boardwalk, and with money left over for the annex. So that's where the 10,000 came from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I think that's good for now. Thank you. Representative Bordelon?
One other question, the trailer on this property, what's that currently being used for?
The Parks and Rec Department has repurposed it into a storage area. So they're putting their either in the winter they put their summer mowers in it, and in the summer they put their winter snow removal equipment in it. So instead of it was a good repurposing of an existing structure. So there are no kids in it. It's for storage.
Okay. My other question is, I support the sign on the building, and I would like one towards the road, but is 10,000 going to be enough in the sense that shouldn't we be looking towards not just a temporary fix, but a long-term fix, where we're looking at something that's going to advertise programs in the town? If you go to other towns where they have community centers that are up and running and functioning, they are able to say, last sign up for soccer, like what's going on in the town. So with this, I mean, this probably wouldn't be enough to do something like that, but is there a way that we can move towards something like that? Because I think it would only bring in revenues to the town to have a proper sign out there that's more digital, more inviting in the sense that's going to advertise what's going on outside the road.
Yeah, that's not the intent at this point. For
Yeah.
instance, the sign that's right outside of here was over 30,000,
Yeah.
and that's not the quality I'd want, honestly, for advertising events. So you're probably talking 40, 50,000 to do a good electronic sign.
Right, and my last question is, if we're gonna, is there a plan to keep this as a community center? Because there's talk that, I've heard rumor, Parks and Rec doesn't know if they're gonna stay there, where we're gonna go, so before we pay for signage, is it gonna be signs that can be moved? Are they gonna be functional in the sense, multi-purpose? Are we staying here?
As far as I know, there's been no discussion of vacating this building at all.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Representative Martin, did you have your hand up? Okay. Anyone else? Seeing no hands, I think we're ready to vote. We have $377,000 on the floor for CIP 6C Town Hall Complex. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries, 26 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions.
The next account is CIP 6D, Groton Public Library, on page 232. Motion was made for $95,000 by Representative Newsom, seconded by Representative Massett. Discussion. This CIP is for replacing the fire alarm system at the Groton Public Library. The whole system has been pieced together over the years, and with the parts aging, it's now time to replace all the pieces with an overall engineered system. The effort will be coordinated with police, library, and IT personnel to ensure the new system meets everyone's needs. Vote was taken for $95,000 for CIP 6D. Motion carried unanimously 5-0 to 0. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, Madam Moderator, I'd like to make a motion for $95,000 for CIP 6D, Groton Public Library.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor for CIP 6D Groton Public Library for $95,000 made by Representative Newsom and seconded, I believe, by Representative Adams. Is there any discussion on that motion? Representative Stevenson?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Do we know if we looked for any grants for something like this, or is there any funding sources other than the main reserve fund?
Oh, for this type of work, we do look for grants and that. There just isn't anything out there for that would, there just no grants for something like this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? No, seeing no other questions on this? Representative Newsom?
So how was this estimate put together for $95,000?
Based on the maintenance firm that does the work, and then we also had it confirmed with one of our mechanical electrical engineers to make sure we had enough money. So there was a cost estimate prepared by an engineer who does fire safety systems.
Thank you.
All right, we have $95,000 on the floor for CIP 6D Groton Public Library. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously, 26 in favor.
Next account, CIP 6F, Vacant School Properties. Page 233. A motion of $35,000 is made by Representative Newsom, seconded by Representative Massett. This figure represents the Town Council approved number for just removing the oil tank. Discussion. $280,000 that would have gone towards Pleasant Valley School was removed by the Town Council because Pleasant Valley School has not been turned over to the town. It is still being used as storage as a home for the Fitch robotics team. Therefore, this spending is premature. $35,000 would be spent to remove the oil tank at Colonel Liddard School. This is a 30-year-old tank in the ground at the end of its life, and if it isn't removed now, the town will face a penalty. Vote was taken for $35,000 for CIP 6F. Motion carried unanimously 5-0 to 0. there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Madam Moderator, I'd like to make a motion for $35,000 for CIP 6F vacant school properties.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for $35,000 for CIP 6F vacant school properties made by Representative Newsom, seconded by Representative Bailey. Is there any questions on this one? Representative Richards?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I didn't hear anything about the $200,000 that was requested as a part of this for Phase 1, Phase 2 on Clodchester, Colonel Ledyard, Pleasant Valley, and S.B. Butler schools. Could you tell us about why?
Sure, that was part of planning's thinking on, in terms of getting the schools ready to sell quicker and do as much as we can internally to do those. And so when we advertise them out, that work's already been done. There were some questions on, could we come up with grant dollars? We wanted to have more discussion. I talked with John Reiner. We believe we could likely get Phase 1, grants for Phase 1 studies, and then we'll figure it out from there. Worst comes worst, you could have the buyer do the work, so.
Okay, so I
So a
take
little
from
premature.
that you support not
Yes,
having
I'm
that in
supportive
this
of the
budget?
$35,000.
Okay, thank you.
And this oil tank that's being removed for $35,000, is that Clodchester, or which one was it?
And that's Colonel Ledyard School.
Colonel Ledyard, sorry, I knew it was a C one, thank you. Any other, Representative Stevenson?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So this 80,000, so does that mean if we do get it handed over to the town, that we can't do anything with it until we allocate funds? How's this gonna happen? Are we gonna have to wait another year? I don't understand that.
Well, right now, it's in the Board of Ed's hands. My understanding, they've said the Board of Ed and Dr. Grenier will discuss their plans and needs. At one point, Dr. Grenier had asked me to wait 2 more years until another school opens up for space that they could swap, but the Board of Ed said, let's take our time, study it, and then they'll get back to us.
I didn't realize that was the time frame we were looking at. Thank you.
Representative
Yes,
Wardlaw?
I'm sorry, the Board of Ed said that it would be at least a year before they turn that building over to the town.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm in full support of the robotics team. I'm in full support of utilizing buildings to their, extent that we need to. But I'm not in support of, draining the time on which we turn buildings over. It's one of the things that we're criticized the most for in this town, and yet we continue to do it. The robotics team was moved into that building after the school was already planned, obviously, to close and had been closed. We have to come up with a better system. We can't keep shifting one problem to the next problem and then leaving buildings that are supposed to be vacated with molding furniture and debris and saying that we're using the A-frame building, but we might parcel that off, but we might do this. Once again, I'm just reinstating that we got to have a plan. And I know there's been talks, and it was stated that there was talks, and I know John Burt's new coming on this in the last couple years, and you can't be, part of all of that. But it just seems that Board of Ed knew the building was closing. Robotics, this should have been planned. We can't. There's stuff in the building now. There's mold in one section where they're securing off the side. Once again, we're getting handed another problem in any time now. We have to have a better plan for the turnover of our buildings in this town. They can't just be at the end of its life and we get them with a ton of problems. Stuff's not even being cleaned out of it yet with mold. It just seems like we can do better.
Thank you, Mr. Burt.
I completely agree. And just as a reminder, Board of Ed has absolute control over those buildings until they turn them over to us. And I have talked to Dr. Grenier about speeding things up and what we can do to make that happen, but we don't dictate to them.
No other questions? I think we have $35,000 on the floor for CIP 6F vacant school properties. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously, 26 in favor.
Next account is CIP 6K, golf course facility on page 234. Motion for $15,000 for CIP 6K was made by Representative Newsom and seconded by Representative Wells. Discussion. This funding will be used for doing the planning and engineering required for the estimates to make the existing clubhouse toilets ADA compliant. Performing this work is necessary because the other public bathrooms are in the restaurant, which is not always open and people are playing. A motion was taken for $15,000 for CIP 6K. Motion passed unanimously, 5 to 0 to 0. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Madam Moderator, I'd like to make a motion for $15,000 for CIP 6K golf course facilities.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for CIP 6K Golf Course Facilities Clubhouse for $15,000 made by Representative Newsom and seconded by Representative S. Powers. Is there any discussion on this one? Representative Kotowski?
Thank you. I do not support this CIP. I'd like to move another number. 0.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
All right. We have a motion for 0 made by Representative Kotowski, seconded by Representative Chase.
Okay.
If you'd like to switch your motion.
The reason why I'm moving 0 is I do not support 1 penny of taxpayer dollars going to a golf course and restaurant business. A golf course is very nice to have. It is not a need. It is a want, and a very lavish want. The town is proposing to spend $500,000 over the next 5 years to subsidize a restaurant business and a golf course. For those of you concerned about fairness for small business, this is not fair. The town is absolutely favoring one small business over others. For example, when Paul's Pasta has to upgrade their toilet facilities to ADA compliant, they have to pay for it. What does the restaurant business at the golf course have to do when they need the same thing? They go to the Groton taxpayers. Not fair. Another example is the stairs from last year that the taxpayers repaired at the restaurant business. Again, Paul's Pasta would have to repair their own stairs. Please consider how much money the restaurant business pays in rent to the town or taxpayers. As the RTM received today in an email, the restaurant pays $39,000 a year, but the town pays for electricity, water, and fuel, which amounts to $41,000. Also in the email today. This is a bad deal for the taxpayers. Unfortunately, the taxpayers pay for anything structural that the restaurant business wants done to the building and anything done through the golf course. Another example of unfairness is when Elm Ridge Golf Course in Stonington or Birch Plains Executive Course in Groton needs to make course improvements, they pay for it. When Shanticosset wants to make course improvements, they go straight to the taxpayers. This is not right in so many ways. The golf course is not self-funded. The golf course pays for salaries and benefits only. They are also an enterprise fund or a special fund, I forgot the correct words, meaning they have money. It was discussed in the town council deliberations that they have a fund balance and they don't want to spend it. Some other interesting information. Several years ago, I was at the pro shop at Shanticosset buying a gift certificate. While chatting with the pro, I found out that 20% of the golf course members are from Groton, meaning 80% are not from Groton. The majority of the members are from out of town because the rates are cheap due to the fact that they are taxpayer subsidized. Parks and Rec quickly answered my question today regarding how many members memberships actually are purchased by residents in my district, District 5, the northeast section of town. There are 8 members at Shanticosset from District 5. I've been in Groton for 35 years, and I know people from out of town who use the golf course, but I only know one person from District 5 that uses the golf course. How important is the golf course to taxpayers in Fieldcrest and Deerfield Ridge? Also, if you are concerned about diversity, how diverse a group of people from Groton actually use the golf course? Is it a cross-section of the residents of Groton? I think it's nice to have a golf course in Groton, but it should be a private, for-profit, tax-paying business. It should not be subsidized by the taxpayers. Also, this is a prime piece of real estate and should be sold in order to collect tax revenues. Certainly, the Town of Groton General Fund, currently the Town of Groton General Fund is making $0 on the golf course and restaurant. The taxpayers should not be funding 1 penny for a golf course and subsidizing a restaurant. The only way to make this happen is for the Town of Groton to stop funding and subsidizing the business of the golf course and the restaurant. Starting tonight, the RTM can end the practice by not funding the CIP. Thank you.
Representative Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Can you talk a little bit about the legal risks associated with not fixing the bathrooms to be ADA compliant? Would we be open to fines and possibly lawsuits?
That's it. If somebody goes there and they're not accessible properly, or if they're not open, they could bring suit against the town for not, under the ADA regulations. Right now, those toilets are open when the restaurant's open. So if you go there early in the morning, there is a set of toilets that are open, but those are the small ones by the where you start. So they're male and female, very small. This has been on the radar for at least the last 4 or 5 years, where I put part of a CIP project together to continue with the renovations to that building. So right now, there's no known suit against the town, but it can happen after this meeting tonight.
So just to clarify, those two bathrooms are within the restaurant, the ones that they're going to spend the $15,000 on?
They're outside the restaurant, but if they're the portion of the rent, they're locked down at night. So if they're within the restaurant or not, they're at the edge of the restaurant, the edge of the dining room, that section by the showers, by the men's and ladies' showers.
There's two, and they're pretty much within the restaurant. I'm just trying to.
Correct. Those are correct. Those are the ones. They're in the restaurant area. They're by the restaurant area. They're not in the restaurant area, but they're by it. Then there's two other ones that are by the where the Golf Pro and where you start out at, two smaller ones. But these are locked down at night. They're under the control.
Is there any, so they're locked down when the restaurant's closed?
Correct.
And they're open when the restaurant's open?
Correct.
Is there any point in time when the golf course is open and the restaurant's not open?
Correct, early in the morning.
Early in the morning?
Yeah, from 6 to whenever the restaurant opens.
Okay, thank you. Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Is there a way so that I know which ones you're talking about, by the pro shop, there's no handicap accessibility, but the rear end there is. Wouldn't it make sense, because there is a separate doorway, couldn't you open that end of the building in the morning?
There's no ramp. Unfortunately, to get to those, it's where they're located at. The people who've been at the restaurant, they're on the western side of it. And if you open up the back or the front, whichever way, the building that faces the golf course, let's call that the back, there's no ramp to it. To build a ramp is about 5 feet. We're building a 40-foot ramp to try to get up into there, then a door width and everything else. So what this would take a look at is that. The second thing that we have there, let me turn, is that underneath the toilets is a crawl space. It's a dirt crawl space. It's full of asbestos. So part of this will be, can we get the plumbing to go straight out to the street? So we can just cordon off that area. We know it's asbestos, you just block it in. If not, it's about $180,000 to abate the asbestos in that place, so I can get a plumber underneath. So part of it's going to look at that. The toilets will be in the same location. How is the easiest access point? The easiest access point we're looking at, we're just installing the new ramp out front, the new deck out front, which will be ADA compliant ramp, goes into one of the doors there. We may take a look at entering the golf course at those toilets at that side. That would save a lot of money because the ramp's already there. So to look at where the plumbing is going to go and what we can do in the most economical way of providing ADA compliant toilets.
It just seems to me that we're once again behind the curveball a bit. Is this the first time this has come up? Because the ADA compliance has been around for, I don't know how many years now, quite some time. So it just seems interesting that the ADA compliant toilets don't have a ramp. You have a toilet, but no ramp to get to them. I don't know why we haven't, once again, our planning has to be driven in a sense where when we plan things that we're looking at the big picture, the golf course not being, the bathrooms not being open to the golf course has been, when the restaurants close, is not a new problem. This has been going on, I don't know how, forever. So I don't know why now. Has this ever come up before? It just seems this should have been handled around the time. I'm in support of it because I feel we have a duty and an obligation to make sure people can access restrooms if they have a disability. With that being said, speaking of town lawsuits in reference to this, if you attend the high school on any given day, you can be refused an ABA compliant toilet. So I think we really need to look at the whole building structure of the town of Groton. If the school does not open the building, as I attend the tennis game or the baseball game, it's not even a handicap restroom. So it's an outhouse. So we're lacking it in all of the towns. So to say that this one's urgent, it's also urgent at our other facilities. So is this something that has come up and was denied in the previous budgets, or is this new?
First inclusion by the department into the capital improvement program itself. That's the capital improvement program is in the back of your budget book. It's Appendix B. Of course, it's updated every year. Was in 2006 that I recommended to the town manager that we proceed with this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Mello Miller?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Can you remind me, how old is the clubhouse?
Says it's over 100 years old in your notes.
So correct. Well, yeah, but so it's over 100 years old. Has this ever been updated before for ADA compliance in regards to what you're asking for?
The toilets were completed in 1985. Those toilets were renovated once. At that time, they met the ADA requirements. Those have changed a little bit over the years, but we have modified that since when I came here in 1983. That's when we first started modifying the building to create to cover the porches, to do HVAC. So this is and to do that was the first stab at the toilets there. So we have been doing work to that building. We just redid the roof, windows. So this is just an ongoing project.
So if I understand it correctly, what you're saying is as ADA compliance regulations changed, so did you do the modifications, correct?
No, we didn't do the modifications. In 2006, I recommended that we proceed with upgrading these toilets again from 1985.
And are we considered, is Groton considered the landlord for the golf course? Would we be, do you know, would we be considered?
We're the golf course, we're landlord for Par 4.
For Par 4.
For the restaurant, right?
Who's the landlord for the golf course?
The golf course is ours.
Is this the town's?
Yeah.
I'm asking because as landlords, we seek to improve the quality of our ADA compliance for the people that spend money, and so therefore, you know, as Representative Kotowski said, for other businesses that have to pay for their ADA compliance, so do we. It's just we happen to own the golf course that needs the ADA compliance. So it's the same thing. We have to improve it. That was my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative S. Powers.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just a couple of things. Representative Wells was on this commission, and I first came to the RTM and I worked with Mr. Barry on the Parks and Rec Committee. The golf course is a very wonderful thing to have, and it's actually a historical site. I believe it's in the Register of Historical things. The PGA used to run one of the U.S. Opens qualifying rounds was played there, and the par 3 hole, I think it's the 5th hole now, is actually it's in golf magazines. So to sit there and to just give it away to someone else, and it's been redesigned, and it has many, many rounds of golf played on it by many, many different people. You know, I'm in favor of anything we can do to improve compliance with ADA. It's been around for very, very many, many, many years. And it's not the simplest thing to change a building that's 100 years old. So the costs are what they are, and to just throw it away and dispose of it and say, okay, here, let's sell it to somebody else and we can develop it into housing. Or we can develop it into some other form of a tax revenue, because I don't see it as that. I see it as an asset to the town, okay, in the fact that it's an economic driver for other developments throughout the city. There's plenty of other land around here. Golf courses are very, very difficult, and they're actually environmentally sensitive areas. They store carbon dioxide. I learned many, many different things about it because I tried to build a golf course, okay? One that was certified, that was PGA. It's not an easy thing, and it has many, many assets to the town. And I want that to be considered in whatever you need, and if you need to go and abate asbestos out of the building, asbestos is one of the worst kinds of cancer you can possibly have. So whatever money we have to put into it, we should. And we should make it safe and enjoyable for everybody to go play. I played many, many rounds of golf at that golf course. There's many kids, there's many different organizations that go there. EB used to have a league. There's all kinds of tournaments that go on. So I see this as something very good for the town and something that we should hold on to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burt, would you like to respond to that?
Just to add generally that we've talked about needing unique things to do in this town for people to move here, like bike paths and other things. This is part of it. They're having a lot of success getting. They've got a new pricing structure for millennials to play golf to get younger people there. That's bearing some fruit. And generally, as long as we have buildings under our control, I believe we got to maintain them. So you'll be seeing more things coming through for the golf course, as long as we have the golf course. And in terms of 80% of people coming from outside of town, that's fantastic. Let them go to Walmart and shop, let them buy gas and everything else. So.
I'm curious, though, about the relationship with the Par 4, because in the past we bought the new refrigerators for them and replaced new windows. And so I'm curious, usually a commercial lessee would, be responsible for some of that, I believe. So a renter would be responsible for some of...
It's a fixture in the building.
I'm asking Mr. Burt, thank you.
Typically, I wasn't here for that negotiation, so I can't really speak to it too much. I've heard some about it. Windows would typically be a owner. It'd be the landlord. Usually something loose, a fixture inside would be the tenant.
Yeah.
So.
What about refrigeration?
In terms of a standalone like freezer type thing, if
Well,
it was a
the
standalone.
refrigeration's actually in the parking lot.
Yeah. I don't want to speak to that because I wasn't here. If it was a standalone freezer, it'd be theirs, but I don't know the details on that.
Thank you. Representative Casper?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just want to, I don't think that the golf course was donated to the town, and I think because of whatever stipulations were made, it can't be sold for commercial use.
That's true. Because it's open space.
Is that true?
Gary believes it's true that we can't sell it. I don't know that I have not looked into it. Other than we paid for it, by the way. It wasn't donated. We did pay a fee for that. I've seen that in different records before.
And the other point, the representative before spoke that she didn't know anyone in her district that played golf, and I would compare that to my district where a lot of us play golf at Shenecosset, but also probably in our district very few people use the school system. So it wouldn't be unfair for us to say, well, we should just sell the schools because we have no use for them. But we don't feel that way.
All right.
And the golf course is an asset to the town, and it adds to the quality of life.
Thank you. Representative Whitehouse?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. It seems like the larger question here is one of, should we support a golf course in town? And I've heard two very compelling arguments for why we should support a golf course in town. One is that 80% of the people who use the golf course are not from Groton, and the other is that there's a certain affluence to the sort of people who go to a golf course, which is a fantastic resource. One, in the fact that people come in and they get gas and they stop at the restaurants and the stores and the businesses and whatnot. And the other is it creates a brand for the town. Some people, maybe they live a few towns away, the only interaction they have with the town of Groton is they go to the wonderful golf course. And if it weren't for that, the only thing they know about Groton is what they read about in the paper. So it's a good thing for people in other towns around New London County and maybe even further that when they think of Groton, they think of a fantastic high-end golf course because maybe a few months later they're talking to their friend who's a developer who's thinking, yeah, I'm going to build a new, I'm looking for an investment opportunity. I'll consider Groton. I don't know much about it, but I play a great round of golf there. That's how towns like ours get the attention of the people who put in the money that becomes the developments that become the property taxes. So indirectly, the town gets quite a bit of revenue from the golf course in the same way that we get revenue from Parks and Rec and we get revenue from the 4th of July parade and all the other things that make Groton a great town to live in. So I would be supporting the $15,000. And the larger picture, I support us having a golf course. I'm very proud, although I do not play golf. I'm part of the Groton Rotary Club that runs a tournament there. That's as close as I get to the golf course. But I'm proud that we have a golf course because it is something that makes people think about the town in a more positive light.
Thank you. Representative Jay Streeter?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I don't know where to begin. Okay, first of all, the town purchased the property in 1969. Purchased it, wasn't given to us. And there was an attempt to sell the property once, to put houses there. None of us, if we had approved it, would have been elected again. Every resident, just about every resident in the town voted against it. Do your research on that one, okay? The other thing, we're looking at projects from 1985 was the last time we did it. I think we kicked the can down the road on that one. Painting, 2012. Certainly needs something to happen there. Reference Paul's Pasta, replacing their bathrooms. They're not the owner. The owner replaces the bathroom. So we go into that aspect of it. It is a historical structure. It was built on and off. It started as a 6-hole and went up to an 18-hole, and Mr. Wells can verify that because he's trying to get the facility on the National Register of Historic Places. When you have that, things are old, things cost more to repair. That HIV system broke down years. HV system, wasn't it?
HVAC.
That started breaking down years ago, and we've kicked that down the road. We talk about the restaurant. Most of the people in this room remember a few years ago when the negotiations took place for the Par 4.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get them out of there. Well, let's face it, Par 4 is a community gathering place. It's one of the best places if you want to get along with your neighbors and meet with your neighbors and have fun together and enjoy talk, whether it's politics, sports, or whatever. That's the place you go. I would consider that golf course probably one of the jewels of Groton. And it does. It puts us on the map. And it's like Mr. Whitehouse said. It brings people here, and we want people here, and we want to encourage economic development. That's one aspect that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Stevenson?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. How much revenue does the golf course bring in for the town of Groton?
Really, they just pay for their employees and upkeep and their vehicles.
Okay, but does the town get any money from it?
It goes back in. It just basically acts as an enterprise fund, staying within that budget.
So when a landlord is renting a property to someone, they're making money off of that. So I think if someone in that building is making their own profits, they should be footing part of the bill for this. I don't support a zero number. I think maybe we should investigate a cost sharings if they are making their own money that we're not seeing. So I would like to move a second number of $7,500, which would be half of the money. So the private enterprise profiting off of what we're putting into it, the support that they get from the town, they are now a stakeholder in improvements that they have to make.
Is there a second for that? Second. All right. We have a motion on the floor for $7,500 made by Representative Stevenson and seconded by Representative Kwiatkowski. I have Representative McDermott as the next person. Would you like to speak to this or no? Yes. Okay, Representative McDermott.
The question of the worth of the golf course comes up every year. It just happens to be Representative Kwiatkowski is talking about it this year, but there have been many people in days gone by that have spoken about this, and with some fairly good arguments. I do agree that these folks who run the Par 4 should have some skin in the game. I think that that's only fair. I mean, we require that of other people, like the ambulances and so forth. But I think that's a question for another day. It's such a big question that it's certainly something that we're not going to solve here this evening. We're talking about something that, as a landlord, we have to really put the money up for, otherwise we have problems. So it's not even a question in my mind. But we're not talking about just $15,000. If you look down the schedule a little bit, you're talking about $500,000 with the HVAC system. Now, maybe that's something we have to do anyway as landlords, but I would like to see Par 4 put a little bit of their own skin into this game.
Mr. Burt?
Just to mention, to my knowledge, Par 4 isn't the one that requested this project. It was a town project. When I met with them when I first got here to go over things that they'd like to see be done, that wasn't their list, that's our list. And we're in a current lease with them. We can't make them pay something outside the lease, so we're kind of stuck right now. So.
Representative Mello Miller?
To respond to Representative Stevenson's question, I believe Par 4 is under contract for things that they're supposed to pay for and not pay for. Right. But when we're talking about the clubhouse, the golf course, any profit that they make goes right back in to building up a fund for, they call it the rainy day fund. So in regards to the clubhouse, now I know this is different, but we're also kind of talking about both here. So the clubhouse, they do reinvest their money so that when they do have years that are better than others in terms of weather, et cetera, they can pull from that fund. So the golf course is, in a way, self-supporting, except for these updates for ADA compliance, et cetera. So I do want to make that clear, that the golf course does give back to our community. And also by bringing it up to ADA compliance, talking about maybe neighbors aren't playing it, but we're bringing money into the community. Perhaps maybe there's certain people in our community that aren't playing, but we're bringing money in. And when they come play golf, they're also stopping at the restaurant. And talking about gathering place, this is where we all met last year after RTM. So we all come here. So I don't know why it's even an argument of how much we're going to spend. We need to bring it up to compliance. Thank you.
Mr. Burt, could you tell me how much is in that fund?
Cindy would know better. I thought it was somewhere in the ballpark of 100,000, but Cindy could, and it took them many, many years to get to that point. They can eat it down fast.
But they don't use
I think they're using like 40, Cindy's in it, like they're using around 40,000 this year of fund balance, 30 to 40.
What do they
So
use?
you wouldn't want to start tapping into it for CIP projects.
Okay. Representative Stevenson, would you like to speak for the second and last time on this motion? Representative Merritt?
Yes, I was going to ask, I believe what the town manager already confirmed was the fact that we own the property, we're responsible for it, bringing up to ADA compliance, not the restaurant, because they're under lease. They could walk out the door, break their lease, or term out their lease and go down the road. And are they going to ask for $7,500 back? It's our building. We're responsible for it.
Thank you. Representative Monahan?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm not sure the horse is dead yet, but we've been beating it pretty much. I'm going to support the $15,000. There's a legal issue. The other issues that have been brought up are interesting, but really not on point. I think we need to attend to getting this project done that was recommended back in 2006, so let's get on with it.
Thank you. Representative Irma Streeter?
There are a couple of things I'd like to point out. First of all, Par 4 has consistently put money into the restaurant, upgrading it, new carpeting, remodeling, and frequently has done fundraising for different events for all of us here in Groton. I support the $15,000, and I think you need to be aware we're not a landlord for the golf course. The golf course is ours. We operate it. And that's where the biggest money is going into this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Stevenson?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I would just like to reiterate, find me a landlord that keeps a property they're losing money on or not making profit on. You're not going to find one. If they are making profit at these enterprises, they should put skin to the game. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote on $7,500 for CIP 6K, rather, Golf Course Facilities Clubhouse, $7,500. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Oh, I need to see hands.
What?
75,000.
Yeah, raise your hand. Raise your hand, please, sorry.
Okay.
Did you get me?
Three people.
That motion,
Evans, Gutowski, and Stevenson.
all opposed? Any abstentions? I believe that motion fails. 3 in favor to 23. No abstentions. All right. We have another motion on the floor for a 0. All in favor, please say aye. All right. All opposed, please raise your hand. Sorry. Any abstentions? That motion fails. 1 in favor, 25 opposed, no abstentions. We have another number on the floor, and that is $15,000. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any, all opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. 25 in favor, 1 opposed, no abstentions. Thank you.
Next account is account 6M, Police, on page 235. Motion for $37,000 for CIP 6M was made by Representative Massett, seconded by Representative Stanford. $25,000 is needed to replace the Sallyport doors and openers. Sallyport is a drive-in bay with an outer door that can be closed before letting a prisoner out of the car. Heavier doors are required to be able to withstand hurricane-force winds. The associated correct controllers are also needed. $12,000 is needed to repair concrete steps and caps to the retaining walls that have deteriorated. Non-slip stair nosings need to be replaced. A vote was taken for $37,000 for CIP 6M. Motion passed unanimously, 5-0-0. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, Madam Moderator, I'd like to make a motion for $37,000 for CIP 6M, Police.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for CIP 6M, Police, for $37,000 made by Representative Newsom and seconded by Representative Bailey. Is there any discussion on this? No?
Actually,
Representative Newsom.
Actually, can you explain more about the doors that have to be replaced and why? I mentioned it briefly, but I'd like a better.
The doors themselves are original to the building, so we're talking 1979, so they've seen a lot of ups and downs. And and we are repairing them, but it's a critical part of the police station. It's a Sallyport, so there's 2 doors. The police vehicle comes in with the guest. The doors are supposed to go down. If they don't, they have to get other officers from the building to come there to make sure that the guest doesn't leave through another door that they're not supposed to be leaving. I'm trying to be polite. And the same thing if the doors don't go down. It's the same thing if the doors don't go up. It's the same issue. Then that they have to bring a guest in through another door. So it is critical. Yes, they're a little bit expensive. They're not an ordinary garage door because of the codes where we're in for the wind that we have. We're below I-95, so those are hurricane-type doors. And of course, the openers have to be a little bit more heavy duty to open that door. Several years ago, we had doors replaced at the highway garage to make it Category 3 resisted for Category 3 wind. So it would be the new tracks, doors, openers, and then the other part of it, of course, is the concrete repairs.
And I know we voted on some CIP for the police building last year, and they did not use it, is my understanding. Is that correct? It was for some remodeling in the front entranceway? Where the...
You mean the wall, the dispatch center? That's in progress now. Has it been bid yet or about to be bid?
It's bid right now.
It's out for bid right now.
Okay. Thank you. Representative Bordelon? Anyone else? Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Can you explain why the tops of retaining walls are deteriorating? What's causing that?
Simple salt. They've been there for a while. We do apply salt. The custodians apply salt to the stair casings, and it just eats it up. So they've been there. We've tried other product. We really can't get the melt that we need. There's some safety salt products that are in use, but this is just regular concrete and salt don't match, or don't like each other. The chlorides.
All right, we have a number of $37,000 on the floor for CIP 6M Police. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. 26 in favor unanimously.
Madam Moderator, I know people are going to be disappointed, but that was the last Public Works account. So, adjournment. Motion to adjourn was made by Representative Merritt and seconded by Representative Wells. Motion to adjourn passed unanimously. The meeting adjourned at 6:58 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Scott Newsom, Chairman, Public Works, RTM Public Works Committee. Madam Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the May 2nd, 2019 RTM Public Works Committee.
Is there any discussion on that? No questions? All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve May 2nd, 2019 minutes of the Public Works Committee, made by Representative Newsom, seconded by Representative Powers. Monahan, sorry, I'm looking right at you and saying the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Representative Monahan, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously, 26 in favor. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is, I believe, Finance. We're going to hear from Representative Katowski, and she's going to be taking the place of Representative Washington to lead us through those minutes. Thank you, Representative Newsom, for that.
Please do not touch.
What?
I said, please do not touch. Oh, okay. That's what? Oh.
That's the draft.
The RTM Finance Committee met on May 1st, 2019. In attendance, Chair Washington, Representative Casper, Katowski, Martin, and McDermott. Also attending, Representative Chase, Finance Director Landry, Town Clerk McCousher, and IT Director Hancock. Chair Washington called the meeting to order at 6:36 p.m. There was no unfinished business. New business. Fiscal year 2020 budget account review. Considering I volunteered to take the minutes at the last minute and had no recording device, I'm counting on the department heads to provide the specific account details. Okay, the first account, Town Clerk 1005 on page 65.
And we're going to take this one account at a time, so just read through that, and then we'll pause, as Representative Newsom did, for discussion on that.
And then just approve the minutes at the end.
Yes, exactly correct. Thank you.
Okay, this account is increasing $6,695, $6,632 for personnel services, $63 for operating expenses. $300,022,898 was moved by Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative Martin. 5 approved, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. I'd like to move $322,898.
All right, was there any discussion on the minutes before we moved on to that? No. All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I didn't see who seconded it.
I think Representative McDermott, but I'll announce that.
Okay.
Was it Representative McDermott? We have a motion on the floor for account 1005, made by Representative Katowski for Town Clerk's Office, $322,898, seconded by Representative McDermott. Are there any questions on this? I have a question. I think, we had 2 extra elections this year, so I was just wondering, where did those elections, the cost of those come out of? I don't know.
Well, it didn't come out of my budget, it came out of contingency, but you'll see those in that referral that you...
The fourth quarter transfer for next month?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? No? Seeing none, let's keep on going, I guess. We have a motion on the floor for $322,848 for account 1005. All in favor, please say aye.
Excuse me, $898.
What? $898? Is that what it say, 95? Sorry. $898. $322,898. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 25 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention.
The next account is 1011 Information Technology on page 76. This account is increasing $51,526 or 5.1%. $13,523 for personnel services, $38,003 for operating expenses. $1,068,215 was moved by Representative McDermott and seconded by Chair Washington. 0 approved, 0 opposed, 5 approved, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. I'd like to move $1,068,215.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for account 1011 made by Representative Katowski, and that's for information technology, $1,068,215, seconded by Representative McDermott. Is there any questions? Representative Newsom.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'd like the IT director to kind of go through
Wait, but he said
the
it.
stuff
He
that he's
raised his
planning to
hand.
use this money.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'd like to ask the IT director to go through and explain
Thank you.
what he's going to be spending this money on.
Well, the majority of this, the way this money is broken out is salaries and maintenance agreements. That's pretty much the 2 things in this entire budget. There's some minimal spending for plotter supplies and office supplies, but other than that, it's salaries and software maintenance contracts, software and hardware maintenance contracts. Oh, yeah. And one of the increase in the budget for the $38,000 is Tyler's, the new ERP software is $48,000, and it's overlapping Panimations right now. So that's one of the driving forces of the increase. And one of the high points is we actually paid off our VoIP phone system at the end of June, which was a savings of a little over $28,000.
And to make it clear, Panimation's cost will drop off once we're all the way done with the updated software. So there's a short time of overlap.
I'm sorry, what's ERP?
It's our new financial software, enterprise resource planning software. Yeah.
Thank you.
And human resources. There's some other components to it, but the bulk of it's finance.
Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I had asked at a previous RTM meeting regarding our software licenses and stuff like that. Do we have a grand list that we maintain of all software and where it's being used and stuff like that? Or is it kind of just as it comes up, we pay it and we're not really tracking this stuff?
Pretty much I have a spreadsheet. I'm tracking all the software maintenance contracts, and we run a written database that we wrote in-house of all the PC software licenses that we have throughout town. It's all in one place.
So, and this has been reviewed to make sure there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, duplication, where condensing, all that's been checked out, I assume?
I go through that each and every year. I look through it, I question it, and I contact every vendor for quotes and make sure all the licenses we are using, we account for.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? When you, I see that there used to be a line item for revenue from GIS, and it's been zeroed the last 2 years. When you do work for people who come and want large format maps printed, do you just do that for free now, gratis?
Oh, absolutely not. What we do is, we don't have a cashiering system down in the IT department, so what we do is we send it all up to the assessor's office. We're looking at modifying that now and having the revenue start coming through our line item here.
How much revenue is it? It was 149. I mean, is it that small or?
I know a couple times over the year, one time we sold data for $600. We sold our GIS data, and then we do a lot of mapping for a lot of individuals.
You don't have an idea of how much it is?
No, not off the top.
Okay, thank you. So that is coming to the town, but in a different little pocket?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So it says here that part of what you're spending the money on is to get Wi-Fi to all the town buildings, including Parks and Rec. Is that the Spicer Building?
The Spicer Building, yes.
Spicer Building that we're trying to vacate?
Yes.
Why?
I won't do that if we vacate that building.
And how much do you estimate cost is with Wi-Fi in the Spicer Building?
Wi-Fi for the hardware and the license costs $425.
It's probably about 2 years, it's at least a year, probably 2 years till we would be looking at abandoning it.
And we could also repurpose the head somewhere else.
Yeah, you can move it, so.
All right, seeing no more questions, we have a motion on the floor for $1,068,215 for account 1011 IT. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously, 26 in favor.
The next account is account 6050, technology replacement on page 81. This account is increasing $37,650 or 63.8%. So last year it was $47,466. Oh, wait, no, that was 15. That was 15. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, it got. Okay.
96,000.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. The equipment schedule for replacement is on page 81. $96,638 was moved by Representative McDermott and seconded by Representative Casper. 5 approved, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. I'd like to move $96,638.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for account 6050, technology replacement, made by Representative Katowski for $96,638, seconded by Representative Adams. Are there any questions on this? Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Why do we need to replace 68 computers?
These units are on a replacement schedule. We do it we refresh them every 5 years. We try to parse them out every 5 years, so we do 60 or 50. And they are running at the end of their life. They're starting to slow down, errors start happening, they're out of warranty. So we do more repairs than we probably should. The refresh keeps up with the new software and the new operating systems too.
And to be clear, the the amount of money on regular computers is flat for this year from the year before. The increased amounts are mostly for new or specialty items. For instance, 20,000 for, follow this right here. Mobile data terminals for the police department, that type of thing. There's one recognized laptop for the highway too for 3,500, a check validator for the tax office. So the increase is, the regular stuff's about flat. It's just for some extra items that are needed.
Thank you.
Representative Kwiatkowski? Oh, yeah.
I'd like to move another number. $77,813.
$77,000, say it again, 813?
Yeah.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
All right, we have a motion on, an amendment to our motion on the floor made by Representative Kwiatkowski for $77,813, seconded by Representative Martin. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Briefly. The reason why I moved it is because this was an estimate, and I believe that the director said that 68 computers cost $42,500, and it's nice to stay on schedule. And I thought that maybe, you know, we could just bring it back just a little bit and maybe eliminate a few of them. Like, it's not a big reduction. So I was thinking that that would be more appropriate.
Thank you. Representative Stevenson, did you want to speak to this? I saw your hand up before.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just had a question about how this is done. This isn't like going to Best Buy and buying a new computer or monitor, right? We're paying a service. How does this work exactly? Can you walk me through the process of how we acquire these and refresh and all that?
What I actually do is I go to a company and I get the best price. I don't buy new monitors. It's just the CPU that we purchase. I go out and get quotes from 3 different companies out there and work with my purchasing agent on WISCA people that are part of the state contracts. So I do get my best price out there, and they do fluctuate between $600 and $800 per unit. So.
And this might be a question for the town manager. I think, I apologize for not knowing the particulars. I'm not sure if it was something that we want to investigate or it's being planned to investigate, but consolidating computer assets and all that, has that occurred yet, or that's going to occur? I'm sorry, could you refresh my memory on that?
I'm not quite, do you mean like IT departments or?
With the schools?
Yeah, wasn't there talk of?
There had been talk shortly before I got here, and it's been brought up sporadically. Part of the issue is there's 2 totally different systems. There's not a lot of fluff time. We don't have where you could eliminate a person by combining. You would combine just to combine. So at the time, approximately, I think it was probably, 2 to 3 years ago? It was about 3 years ago. So it was before my time, but it was not found to be worthwhile at the time.
Okay.
But Dr. Goodyear and I are talking about rehashing all ideas, though, again, coming up.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I think you said the number, but what's the life cycle for these computers before they're up for refresh? I'm sorry?
5 years.
5 years? All right, thank you.
Representative Mello Miller?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Back to the monitors. So it says budgeted to replace up to 50 monitors. So how do you, and I'm assuming monitors are similar to CPUs with like the having to replace the screens, et cetera. So up to 50. So how many on average monitors fail every year?
We put this line item in here worded like this. So I'm under the direction between the council and RTM that when a monitor fails is when I replace it. So the backlight goes out or it doesn't turn on is when I will go out and replace that unit.
And how much are monitors?
Oh, how many? I think I'm up to 13 or 14 this year.
Starting in January or fiscal year?
Fiscal.
Fiscal, so since July, so 13. Okay, so you're not.
That's typical.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're 8 or 9 years old right now, so I could run on a spree.
Okay, because monitors do last, from my understanding, monitors do last a little bit longer than CPUs because
Yes,
you're not
they do.
talking about updating technology. And how much do monitors typically cost?
I try to get them between $100 and $125.
So you're budgeting $5,000 to $6,000 for monitors?
5,000.
Sorry, $5,000 to $6,000 for monitors. And then, so you're saying you replace these CPUs every 5 years to update the software. What's going to happen if you don't, let's say you go every 6 years, what potentially could happen?
Systems just slow down.
Which systems would slow down without this replacement?
Pretty much all of them. Right now, we're upgrading it to Windows 10. So as we replace them, we're upgrading them to Windows 10 at this point in time.
And isn't it true that certain programs won't work with the lower versions of Windows, though?
Correct.
It's like Flash players and Adobe.
And Windows is coming unsupported in, early 2020?
And then is it possible to just update the software without updating the whole CPU?
Not really. The doesn't have enough memory in some of these units to run, and it's
Well, and that's what I was going to ask, because as technology increases, more memory is needed in these CPUs, correct?
Yes.
So my husband would be so proud of me for asking this. So as more memory is needed, the cost is eventually going to go up for these CPUs, correct? Because more memory equals more cost?
I've been actually buying with more memory, larger hard drives, better CPUs, and coming in at the same price.
Okay, so my husband would be horribly disappointed in that question.
Quantity does help.
Quantity does help. Yeah. And so so you're buying these used, but when you're buying them used, how old are these CPUs?
Well, I don't buy them used.
Oh, I thought you said you buy them used.
No, I don't. They're new.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I buy them in quantity.
Oh, you buy them in quantity. Did you buy something else used, or maybe, I'm sorry, maybe I misheard you. And then you're asking for 5 GIS user PCs. What's GIS?
Geographic Information Systems.
And what's that used for?
That is our GIS system.
Mapping.
Mapping.
The mapping
We
system.
we have 4 people out there that use ArcMap and AutoCAD and GIS. And these systems are memory intensive and CPU intensive and video intensive. So they are actually starting to slow down. That's what we're looking to replace them.
And how much are the GIS users PCs each?
I think it was 1,200 each.
1,200 each. And then I'm sorry, who's using these GIS user PCs? I'm sure I know what they are without the verbiage, but
One
who's
is
using?
my GIS coordinator. 1, 2, 3, 4 from Public Works Engineering.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Representative Chase?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Representative Katowski, can you tell me what you eliminated from the list to come to your number?
I just took the increase for this year and took 50% off.
50%?
Right, because it was 96.
Okay.
And then last year it was 80-something. It was, wait a minute.
It was 58,000 last year?
Actually, if you look at the top of page 81, it says the overall increase in this budget is $37,650. I just took half of that.
Oh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Representative Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My notes from last year say that, we approved purchasing of 68 computers, 2 laptops, 50 monitors, so very similar, and we just talked about the GIS. You mentioned in passing the police MDT mobile.
Correct.
Could you, is that a new product? And could you talk about the use for that and from the public safety standpoint?
CAD RMS system, the new data records and dispatch system. They need, it's got a higher level of windows, and it'll enable them out in the field to input data that will populate the system. So it's neat. If with this kind of cut, that's probably what we'd have to cut because we have to stay on our schedule for computers. But that's needed to take full advantage of the new software. So we're going to have to pay it at some point.
Okay, so sorry, just so the police officers are actually using it in the field to enter data. Okay.
These units are already existing. They're all XP out there right now. We got to bring them up to BC just compliant out there.
Okay, so this
That's what we're
is
working on.
the replacement systems, it's, if we don't do it now, we're just kicking the can till next year.
Have to be done.
Okay.
Representative Merritt?
I think my question was just answered.
Okay, thank you. Representative Whitehouse? Representative Casper?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So with this cut, it basically would come out of the 68 computers that you're trying to replace at $600 each.
We'd have to discuss it, because I do not want to get off schedule on replacing those.
Yeah, and
as it is I've got new software, like on my own computer, it's only 2 to 3 years old, and it's painfully slow.
Right.
I wouldn't want to get beyond 5 years.
So I'm looking at this as probably being a little bit pound foolish, because the lack of productivity is going to cost more than the $600 per computer.
Yes, I agree.
So, based on that, I just have to support the higher number, and the lower number makes no sense. It's just arbitrary, and it's not really
I thought you were
looking at
supposed
the
to,
productivity
question-
effect.
Excuse me?
I thought we weren't supposed to question people's motions, like.
Do you have a point of order? 'Cause I have other people. Representative Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just for everybody's information, last year's was number for 6050 that was approved was $58,988. But the MDT system, when was it last replaced, if it was?
These systems were originally purchased probably 12 to 13 years ago.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much.
They've actually lasted a long time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Representative Stevenson?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just had a question. When you look at the financing plan for 2019, the total financing plan comes out to be $83,981, which is about $30,000 more than we put in there. What's the discrepancy on that?
It's 96.
Yeah, the estimated, so the financing, I may have made this, sorry, it's my first time. So I see the estimated total cost for 2019 was $53,354 on page 83. And then you look at page 82, the financing plan, the estimated 2019 actual is $83,981. So am I missing something in that difference between those numbers?
So basically, the financing plan raised more money than was actually expended.
Well, they actually they applied the fund balance on the manager's number. Where the estimate I put in there didn't have the fund balance applied. The fund balance from the computer replacement fund, not the regular fund balance. The 7622.
What page you want to tell people?
I'm on page 84.
Is on page 84.
No, we put over 96, 638.
So by applying that fund balance, you still have over $300,000 of fund balance.
Oh, I see what you mean, okay. That was, we have a spreadsheet that we assign costs, fixed costs to each PC, like PC costs $600, so we put $125 in the computer replacement fund. So when we do these large purchases, when we're moving out, a lot of that money will be spent in the future. This is covering our future costs for our computer replacement fund. It's like the vehicle replacement fund.
Is this like another enterprise fund?
It's
Like a
It's
special?
an enterprise, though.
Oh.
It's like a vehicle replacement, just like the vehicle.
But why
Representative
wouldn't you be
Stevenson, do you-
taking it in and out of the general fund?
We still have
So-
someone on the floor, please.
sorry.
So we're applying $7,000 from the fund balance, Could we, but I see here that we have over $300,000. Is that like a rainy day fund? Why are we keeping so much money in the balance if we got all these replacements to be doing?
He's looking at this fund right now.
This is on page 84 at the bottom, audit fund balance. Is that the computer balance? Is that the right balance there?
Yes, I would think so, yes.
So we have over $300,000 that we could, I assume, tap into to make some of these replacements without drawing too much money. Is that correct?
Well, I do have a schedule here. If you actually want to take a look at it, it goes out to 2025, and it does fluctuate in cost with, with the MDTs being replaced in the next 4 years is $20,000 each for each outgoing year to replace the MDTs. But it sits right here in my replacement schedule.
Right. So that's $60,000. That's $240,000 still in the fund. How much are we trying to keep in there for reserve? I'm trying to understand.
There's a lot of expenses. 2021, we're coming up almost on $100,000 to spend on computers. 2022 is $74,000.
Out of that fund, specifically?
Out of this fund.
Okay.
Yes.
So and that gets refilled through what means? Used to be through individual budgets, and it's been moved to what do we call it now? A standalone fund where a special fund where we move these in so we didn't have to cut. Like if you wanted to reduce my computer replacement fund per budget, you wouldn't have to go through.
Bring the expert up.
Yeah, bring it up.
It's enough
Say that
laundering.
again? Can you say that again? Can you say that again?
Oh, okay. Okay, the computer replacement fund is another one where we are accumulating available fund balance. So for those larger expenses that are going to be coming further down the line as the end of life of these larger pieces of equipment, as Brian is saying, the 64 and the 74. So we are accumulating funds in that so that we won't have a big spike in those years when he may have to spend $100,000 out of this fund.
Similar to reval fund.
Yeah, similar to the reval fund. Yeah. We're accumulating the funds for replacement of computer equipment down the road.
Right, but all these numbers you're throwing out there is a third of what the total is in there. I haven't heard anything that would suggest you would significantly tap into this amount.
I don't know what he just handed him something.
Okay, I'm seeing this page. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Representative Bordelon?
The contribution to the fund comes out of the general fund.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My question is, so which funds how do you get to this 309? Where are you, how is the money being moved into this, and where is it coming from again, just for clarification? How are we getting this fund balance to this level? Where are you, how much are you putting in each year? How much did you put in 2018?
Okay, go. We have to go back to contributions. The other thing. Well, here's the financing plan. The payments from other funds.
I'm sorry?
On the financing plan, the payments from other funds. Yep. That's a contribution to the fund.
So how much is going in every year?
Well, for 18, it was the 75,541, and this year it's going to be the 80,466 on page 82.
Yeah, I'm on that page.
82, it's on 82 too.
18 was only 39,000.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, 18 was 39,000.
Okay, so every year you plan to put something into this?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of
And
breaking it
so
over time.
drawing off of it, which I did see the map that was described there, you don't feel that you could draw off of it if you're going to be putting more in, that we can't shave some off based on that? I mean, I guess looking at the final number.
Yeah, then it's going to go up and down over time, whereas this keeps a nice even keel.
So that's what you're doing, okay.
Right.
So that's how you're trying to fund. And, all right, thank you. That's.
Representative Bailey, would you like to speak for your second and last time on this motion?
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Question would be, if it goes over $10,000, would it be brought to our attention for approval?
Excuse me, for which item?
Well, for like if the funds that are being held as just in case.
It would be put in the budget. It would be planned expenditures based on end of life cycle. So yeah, it would come through this normal process.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for $77,813 for account 6050, technology replacement. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Me and Scott and Roseanne. You got three? Oh, Bordelon and Stevenson. You got it? All opposed, say aye. Aye. Any abstentions? I believe that motion fails. 5 in favor, 21 opposed, no abstentions. We have another motion on the floor for $96,638. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And any abstentions? That motion passes. 24 in favor, 2 opposed, no abstentions. Thank you.
Okay, the next account is CIP 7 Technology.
Do you want to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I just want to announce that I did bring some candy, and it has nuts but no gluten. And other people brought stuff. So 5-minute break, okay? So like come back by like 9:20, okay? Thank you.
CIP 7 Technology, A, Information Technology Infrastructure on page 236 or 66 in Appendix B. Requested replacements, upgrades, systems, etc. are listed on page 236. $160,000 was moved by Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative Martin. 5 approved, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. I move $160,000. I just heard from the town manager.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for $160,000 for a CIP 7A Information Technology Infrastructure made by Representative Katowski and seconded by Representative S. Powers. Representative Katowski?
I'd like to move another number. $135,000.
Is there a second for that?
I just heard from the town manager that there was.
Let me open it up,
sorry.
okay? So we have a motion on the floor for $135,000 made by Representative Katowski and seconded by Representative Newsom. Now you can speak to your motion.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I just heard that there was some items double budgeted, so we already approved for some of it in the Public Works budget. And the town manager can detail what it was.
It's for the fiber connection to middle school, to the old Fitch Middle School, the community center.
So there are 2 places in the, they're budgeted
Yes,
for 2.
right, so it can be removed.
Thank you. Representative Merritt?
So that's the difference between the two numbers?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
Representative,
fully supportive of that, yeah.
Representative Stevenson?
Yes, just for my own information, what is the lifespan for these? So coming up for the end of life, how much life do we get out of those?
Out of the network switches?
Yeah.
We got about 6 years out of them.
Oh, okay.
Which is actually pretty good.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for $135,000 for CIP 7A, Information Technology Infrastructure. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. 26 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. Thank you.
The next account is CIP 7 Technology, page 237 or 69 in Appendix B. 7 Technology DIT Security. Okay. These funds are not needed due to existing technology upgrades. 0, moved by Representative Katowski, seconded by Representative Martin. 5 approved, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. I move 0.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for CIP 7D IT security for 0, made by Representative Katowski, seconded by Representative Bailey. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for 0. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 1 opposed? Merit. Any abstentions? Are you abstaining? And 1 abstention. That motion carries 24 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention. Thank you.
The next account is 1076, debt service, page 205. This account is increasing $1,371,979, or 26%. This account is to pay long-term bond issues for the town and the Board of Ed. Per state statute and town charter, this account cannot be reduced. $6,638,769, moved by Representative Martin, seconded by Representative Casper. 5 approved, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. I move $6,638,769.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for account 1076 debt service for $6,638,769, made by Representative Katowski and seconded by Representative Adams. Is there any questions? All right, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for account 1076, $6,638,769. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously, 26 in favor.
The next account is 1077, contributions to other funds, on page 170. This account is decreasing by $47,208, or 2.8%. This is where the general fund budgets to pay other funds, including the list on page 170. $1,651,951, moved by Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative Casper. 5 approved, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. I move $1,651,951.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion on the floor for account 1077, contributions to other funds, $1,651,951, made by Representative Katowski, seconded by Representative Adams. Is there any discussion on this one? Representative Katowski?
I just wanted to note that if you look on page 170, what we learned in committee from Director Landry was this is where the money for the computer replacement comes from.
Yeah, these are all things set in previous budget discussions, so it's now just of confirming these transfers. So to change it, you'd have to go back and look at all the earlier budgets.
Representative Rogers? Anyone else? All right, we have a motion on the floor for account 1077, contributions to other funds, $1,651,951, All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 27 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. Thank you.
Okay. The next account is 5010, Capital Reserve, page 201.
I think
Except
we're,
for tonight.
if we could keep going.
Oh.
Do you want to?
I don't think so.
No?
Yeah.
Okay,
We haven't
so-
finished all the
We're done?
CIPs.
So we're going to continue those minutes, I guess, till our meeting on the 16th. We won't vote on them now then.
Okay.
Is that correct? Okay.
Okay, is that the same for contingency?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, contingency you can do.
Want to do contingency?
It's up to Cindy.
No? It's only 9:30.
Only?
We can't go ahead of schedule though, right?
What?
We can't go ahead of schedule.
The department head's here.
Okay.
Because
We'll do a contingency.
No, at contingency, we don't need a department head to do.
just the town manager.
Well, I would say go ahead with this one and,
I mean, they're the people.
Okay.
yeah, well, they're here right now.
We actually budget for this
Oh,
year.
okay, sorry. I thought you were saying we don't have the
450,
department head.
wasn't it?
So yes?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, the next account, contingency, 1074, on page 211. This account is decreasing $100,000. This account is set aside for unforeseen or unexpected costs. Using contingency does not increase the bottom line of the budget. $350,000 moved by Representative Katowski, seconded by Representative Martin. 5 approved, 0 opposed, 1 abstained. I move $350,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for 1074, a contingency for $350,000, made by Representative Katowski, seconded by Representative Bailey. Let me write it up here. I think we have a few members that are saying bye-bye. What?
They might be here for the vote.
All right. Is there any questions on this contingency account? Seeing none. We have $350,000 on the floor for account 1074, contingency. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes, 25 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. I think Irma Streeter had those.
Yeah, they left.
But no, Jim voted.
No, they just.
Yeah, Jim voted. I saw him say vote. He's right there, and he said aye. So he definitely voted.
26 votes.
Oh, 26? Okay. 26 in favor, none opposed. All right. So is that the end of your minutes or no? Was that the end of the?
There's 2 more accounts that we're not doing.
Okay, well, what are those?
Capital
can't-
reserve and capital reserve contributions.
Okay, we'll wait on those till the 16th, so thank you. We'll take those. Representative Stevenson, did you have a question?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just, could we vote on the accounts that we can't actually change? Is that something we could just knock out now while have a quorum?
We did.
Okay, so so that's the question. So there's no more accounts that we don't actually have any say on, right? Is that correct?
Well, until you get through CIPs. We have to get through CIPs to have the last couple.
Okay. Great. Thank you for clearing that up. Thank you.
So our next and hopefully last meeting, maybe, is going to be on Thursday. We'll meet here at 7. It will start earlier than tonight, so just so you know, it's a 7 o'clock start time. Representative Monahan, did you have a question? Oh, a motion to recess. Is there a second? All right, all in favor? By wide acclaim, that passes.
That Wednesday meeting, just
Thank you. Thank you guys for holding in for an extra.